Chapter 1005. Leah, I realized that I no longer have the right to scold others for being selfish. Gu Mingming leaned into Li's arms, but her eyes were moist as she gazed at Qixuan. Her voice was choked with sobs. I have become what I hate the most, selfish and greedy. I am unwilling to sacrifice myself, but still force Qixuan to stay by my side. Gu Mingming wanted to laugh, but the moment she opened her mouth, she started crying. I feel that I have become the kind of parent that children hate the most. Judging the friends of the children based on their own preferences, forcefully stopping the children from interacting with what I see as bad friends. No matter how important the bad friends are to the children, I forcefully forbid them from interacting just because I don't like them. Am I a bad mother? If that's the case, it is right that Qixuan does not want to stay by my side, because I am a bad mother. Sob sob. Silly girl. Leah sighed softly. He hugged Gu Mingming tightly. Only then could she feel that she was not alone and that he was still around. Kissing Gu Mingming's tears, he said, "If you are really selfish, you will not be feeling so upset now. Selfish people can find millions of reasons to justify their selfishness, to make their selfishness seem righteous." Gu Mingming cried silently. She did not cry tragically, but the way her shoulders twitched made Li's heart ache. In the past, whenever the females in the tribe cried, Leah would usually laugh and say, "Cry for a while and stop crying when no one cares. Don't care." But now, he could not bear to put Gu Mingming down and let her sit here crying alone. "Xiaoming, we all know that you are doing this because you love Qixuan. You are afraid that he will be in more danger if he stays by Cole's side. You are doing this for his own good." "For his own good? Ha! In the end, the one who hurts him the most is me, the one who says that I am doing this for his own good." Gu Mingming's heart throbbed as she gripped Li's arm tightly. "Qixuan gave me a third option. As long as I am willing to sacrifice myself, he will be willing to come back." "I heard that," Leah said, "but you know very well. If I accepted Cole, the situation would become a fight to the death between Elvis, Cole, and me. We will not allow any male to force you against your will. Based on Qixuan's relationship with Cole, he will definitely help Cole. Then either Elvis and I killed Cole and Qixuan or they killed us. Either way, it would be worse than the current situation, wouldn't it?" Gu Mingming knew that Leah was purposely telling her the worst-case scenario so that she could relieve the guilt in her heart. If she did not have Snake's 1,000 years of memories, if she did not have Wang Xiaoxin's psychological knowledge, perhaps she would become happy as Leah wished. But the cruelest thing about fate was that it took away the ifs and left only the results. And in the end, she had disregarded Qixuan's wishes and forcefully removed Cole from his life. Gu Mingming did not say anything else and just leaned on Li's shoulder, crying non-stop. Because of guilt but also because of heartache. She would never forget the look on Qixuan's face when he resisted her hypnosis. He hated her. Chapter 1006. Qixuan had been unconscious for 3 days, and Gu Mingming had accompanied him for 3 days without taking off her clothes. Her eyes were already bloodshot, but Gu Mingming refused to rest. She held onto Qixuan's hand with both hands and stared at him without blinking, as if she was afraid that Qixuan would disappear the moment she closed her eyes. Finally, those slender eyelashes quivered slightly, and Gu Mingming immediately tensed up as if she had been electrified. Even her breathing became extremely light, as if only the person who had been unconscious for 3 days could attract her attention in this entire world. Qixuan hooked his finger gently, then his eyelashes quivered even more. Every change tugged at Gu Mingming's heart, and her tightly pursed lips were so pale that not a single trace of blood could be seen. Finally, Qixuan opened his eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. He was completely expressionless and there was no sign of life in him. He just stared at the sky quietly. "Qixuan, Qixuan." Gu Mingming's voice was hoarse. She tried her best not to sound tired, but she had not slept for 3 days. If not for Snake's strength, she would have collapsed long ago. Qixuan ignored Gu Mingming's call and did not respond at all. Gu Mingming was extremely afraid. She gently held onto Qixuan's hand and called out again, "Qixuan, I am your mother." Qixuan turned his head slightly and looked at Gu Mingming. His gaze was as if he was looking at a stranger, devoid of any emotions. Gu Mingming's dry eyes met Qixuan's and neither of them said a word. Until Qixuan silently closed his eyes, and then returned to his sleeping position, as if he had never woken up. "Qi." Elvis gently patted Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, "Since he is awake, he should be fine. Maybe he is just not used to it yet. Give him some time, don't worry too much." Gu Mingming pursed her lips and did not say a word. Elvis carried her into his arms and said, "You have not slept for 3 days. Now that he is awake, you should be at ease. You should at least sleep for a while." Otherwise he will be fine but you will fall. Gu Mingming shook her head. I don't dare to sleep. I am afraid that once I wake up, Qixin will be gone. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. Leah and I are guarding the house while Wabiai is coiled up at the door. Even if he has 3 heads and 6 arms he can't escape. Sleep for a while, alright? Leah also sat beside Gu Mingming and promised, be good and sleep, I will guard him. If there's anything wrong with him, I'll wake you up immediately, okay? Gu Mingming knew that her emotions affected the entire family. Not just Elvis and Leah, even the 3 little ones in Wabiai had not been feeling well for the past 3 days. Not wanting them to worry even more, Gu Mingming finally nodded. She tilted her head and leaned into Elvis's arms, slowly closing her eyes. Chapter 1007. Gu Mingming felt her heart settle back into her stomach. She slowly relaxed and stood up from Elvis's arms. She slowly walked to Qixuan's side and did not say anything. She just sat there quietly with him. They sat there until the night sky was dark and the moonlight shone brightly. Qixin stood up, still not saying a word. He just circled around Gu Mingming and returned to the cave. He laid on the bed he had woken up on, maintaining a supine position, and slowly closed his eyes. It was obvious that he had fallen asleep. Gu Mingming also wanted to stand up but her legs were numb from sitting for so long. The moment she stood up, her entire body tilted. Luckily, Elvis reacted quickly and caught her, placing her in his arms. Don't worry, it will be all right. Gu Mingming could only believe Elvis's words now that things had come to this. For the next 10 days, Qixin would wake up in the morning and sit at the door without moving. During this period, Hutta and his brothers would bring him food. He would eat whatever they gave him, and if they didn't, he wouldn't eat. Then he would sit there until midnight before returning to bed to sleep. He ignored everyone and did not say a single word. Gu Mingming was so worried that she could not think of a solution. In order not to make her worry, Elvis and Leah had used both the carrot and the stick on Qixin without her knowledge. But that fellow remained unmoved no matter how hard they tried. Be it Elvis's physical threats or Lee's verbal attacks, none of them could make Qixin say a word. Not even a change in his expression had happened. Until this day Cole came. His arrival was tacitly approved by Gu Mingming. Otherwise he would not be able to get past Wabiai. Cole stood in front of Qixin and just looked at him disdainfully. He called out softly, "Little Xian." Qixin looked up in a daze. His eyes met Cole's empty gaze. His expression was still blank but his brows were slightly furrowed. He slowly got up and stood in front of Cole. After a long while he turned back to the cave and lay back on the bed. He continued to sleep without a word. Cole stood at the door and glanced at Gu Mingming. He chuckled. "Agu, I waited for you for 10 days. Why didn't you come to see me?" Gu Mingming frowned and did not say a word. She just turned around and sat by Qixuan's bedside. Holding his hand, she quietly watched as he closed his eyes to sleep again. Cole chuckled. "Now that Qixin has returned to your side, I no longer have anything to threaten you with. You don't want to kill me?" Gu Mingming slowly released Qixuan's hand and gently stroked his hair. Then she stood up and walked out of the cave. Due to her height, she had to look up at Cole. Over 10 days of worry had made her extremely haggard. When this face appeared in front of Cole at such a close distance, Cole frowned involuntarily. "Do you have a way?" Although it was a question, it sounded like a statement. "Let's talk about a condition. You help me save Qixin and I will do something for you." "Anything?" Cole's question implied that he could save Qixin and had already thought of the conditions. Gu Mingming took a deep breath. "I cannot harm my partner, family or friends. I can do anything else." Chapter 1008. Sure. Gu Mingming answered without a hint of hesitation. Cole did not seem surprised by Gu Mingming's answer. He just narrowed his eyes and asked in a playful tone, "You can also put up with accepting me?" Gu Mingming clenched her fists tightly. Her entire body was trembling but she still nodded and said, "Sure." Cole suddenly laughed and waved his hands saying, "You don't have to be so angry. I will not make such a request after all. I want to be the most special existence in your life, the one and only kind. You already have 2 partners, I don't care." He didn't care. Not only did Gu Mingming not feel the slightest bit of anger from being despised, she felt as if a huge burden had been lifted off her shoulders. Because in her predictions, this was the most disgusting and worst-case scenario. As long as it was not this, she did not mind breaking one of her arms or both of her legs, or even taking her life in exchange for Qixuan's safety. Cole pointed at Gu Mingming's neck and said, "I want you to cut off the guardian mark on the back of your neck and completely break all ties with Snake. How about that?" Gu Mingming's loosened fists instantly clenched tightly. It was not that she could not bear to part with Snake's power, nor was she afraid of getting hurt. It was just that this mark was the only thing Snake had left for her. He had protected her in 2 lifetimes regardless of the cost. Now she had to forcefully cut off all evidence of his existence and destroy all traces of him. Can't bear to part with him? Cole seemed rather unhappy. His gaze drifted towards Qixin, who was lying on the bed in the house. He said, "You don't really love this son of yours. Since that's the case, why don't you let me bring Qixin away? If I can wake him up once, I can wake him up a second time. Or, do you like this obedient son who won't disobey you so much that you want him to live obediently by your side for the rest of his life?" Gu Mingming looked up and took a step forward. Without any warning, that hand pierced through Cole's chest and dug a bloody hole in his right chest. Cole frowned and groaned but did not dodge or struggle. Instead, he suddenly laughed and looked down at Gu Mingming's wrist that was stuck in his body. His smile gradually became crazier. My Agu has grown up, you finally have sharp claws? And that's great, the first person you scratched was me. Gu Mingming retracted her hand expressionlessly, while Elvis and Leah, who had smelled the scent of blood, rushed to her side the second after Gu Mingming's hand pierced through Cole's chest. Gu Mingming retracted her hand. From her fingers to her wrist, it was stained with blood and a fishy smell permeated the air. Gu Mingming raised her hands horizontally and said, "Dirty, I need to wash my hands." Leah frowned and did not say anything. He just went back to fetch some clean water and came back to wash Gu Mingming's hands carefully. Gu Mingming stared straight at Cole and said, "If you have any more ideas about my son next time, I will dig a hole on your left side." "No, Agu." Cole did not care that his wound was bleeding profusely. He smiled like a pervert and said, "If you want to torture me, you can't dig the left side of my chest. Because if my heart was ripped out, I would die. That way you can't torture me anymore. Can you bear for me to die so comfortably, so easily? Don't you feel that you should let me suffer more pain and torture so that you can vent the anger in your heart? So, if there's a next time, you should dig this side on the right side, right here. Dig out the newly grown flesh again. That's the most painful part, do you understand? Aside from the topic, I saw some readers saying that it was fine to not have a son like Qixin since he was not the only child anyway. But to a mother, the value of a child has nothing to do with the number of children. Every child is precious. You can't abandon them just because they are disobedient, or bring you trouble. Today's update ends here. Chapter 1009. Gu Mingming ignored Cole. She just looked at her hands that had been washed clean by Leah, before turning to walk back into the cave. As she walked, she asked, "Wabiai, how many days has it been since you last ate? Are you hungry?" Wabiai stuck out his tongue lazily and narrowed his eyes dangerously. "Yeah, a little hungry. I want to eat a 5th level fox to replenish my energy." Gu Mingming didn't say anything else and just continued walking into the cave. Cole had actually requested for Gu Mingming to dig out Snake's mark on the back of his neck. Even if Gu Mingming didn't say anything, Wabiai would not let Cole off. But if Gu Mingming didn't express her stance, Wabiai might spare Cole's life for Qixuan's sake. But now, Gu Mingming didn't want to be led by the nose by Cole anymore. Qixin was her son. She must have a way to save him. If she couldn't make him return to normal, then she would raise this son for the rest of his life. Back in the cave, Elvis sighed. "Why do you have to do it yourself? Don't you still have me?" Gu Mingming used a beast's skin to wipe her hands. "I didn't want to kill him. I was just too angry and needed to vent." Elvis didn't say anything else and just quietly accompanied Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming's hands had already been washed clean by Leah and she had also used a beast's skin to wipe them for a long time. But even so, Gu Mingming still felt that there was a bloody smell on her hands that she couldn't get rid of. "Mother." That soft call instantly calmed Gu Mingming down. She didn't have the leisure to care about her hands anymore. She just went to Qixuan's bedside and looked at him, who was staring at the ceiling of the cave, waiting for him to continue. "Did I forget something?" Gu Mingming gently caressed Qixuan's face. "Why do you say that?" Qixin stayed silent for a long time. "I don't know. I just feel. I seem to have lost something very important. But I can't remember what it is." Cole was very important to Qixin. She knew this when she hypnotized him. So, even though she was angry, she only dug out Cole's right chest and didn't dig out his heart. Gu Mingming forced a smile. "If you can't remember, that means it's not that important. Why don't you cherish what you have now?" Qixin didn't say anything else. He just slowly closed his eyes and didn't say anything. Gu Mingming remained silent for a long time until Qixuan's breathing became light and rhythmic. Wabiai and Cole were still locked in a fierce battle at the door, but Gu Mingming could not be bothered with them. In any case, Wabiai would not be the one at a disadvantage. "Hubby, I want to see my father." Gu Mingming leaned her head against Elvis's chest, her gaze fixed on Qixuan. Elvis thought, Gu Mingming had not had a good rest these few days. At least her body was in a sleeping state when she went to the beast deity's place, so it could be considered a rest. So she nodded and said, "All right, I will watch over Qixuan for you. I will not let anything happen to him." Gu Mingming nodded, then slowly closed her eyes. Both physically and mentally exhausted, the moment Gu Mingming relaxed, rather than saying that she fell asleep, it would be more accurate to say that she fainted. However, this did not prevent her from entering the dream world to be a filial daughter. At the end of the white fog she saw that two-seater bench. But strangely, that patch of green was no longer 2 square meters in size. It had expanded by several times. If it was originally the size of a bed, it now looked at least the size of a basketball court. Aside from the topic, cries for Cole to be killed rang out. Doesn't this mean that the villain I created is quite successful? Chapter 1010. It was rare that the beast deity was not sitting on the long bench waiting for her leisurely. Instead, he stood at the entrance with his arms wide open. The moment he saw Gu Mingming, he immediately pulled her into his arms and said with a fatherly benevolence, "My precious daughter, you have suffered." Gu Mingming had not cried since Qixuan woke up. The tears that she had held back for more than 10 days burst at the beast deity's words. She did not dare to cry in front of Elvis and Leah. She was also afraid that her son would see her tears. She had a hard time holding it in. Her chest felt stuffy and uncomfortable as if it had been stuffed with cotton. The beast deity patted her on the back and said, "Silly girl, why hold it in all by yourself? Why didn't you come back earlier? You still have your father." Gu Mingming cried for a long time until she had vented all the pent-up emotions in her heart. Then she looked up at the beast deity with her swollen eyes. "Can you answer my question first? I'm not in the mood to watch television now." The beast god nodded. "What do you want to ask?" Gu Mingming said, "I hypnotized Qixuan, but the effects were strange. Qixuan is like a doll whose soul has been hollowed out, living like a zombie. Father, did I do something wrong?" The beast deity caressed Gu Mingming's head and said with heartache and helplessness, "You have already done very well. He will be fine." Gu Mingming's eyes widened in an instant and her tears were locked by hope. Her voice trembled slightly as she asked carefully, "Really?" It was only 2 words, but they expressed her uneasiness. Her slender fingers gripped the beast deity's sleeves tightly. Her fingertips turned white and trembled uncontrollably. The beast deity held Gu Mingming's hand. "Didn't you already give the soul of the forest to Qixuan?" Gu Mingming was stunned for half a second, then she nodded. The beast deity continued, "The soul of the forest has 2 leaves. The first one has already bloomed. It saved Qixuan's life, right?" Gu Mingming continued nodding. The beast deity said, "There is one more leaf. When the time is right it will bloom. At that time Qixuan will return to normal." Gu Mingming asked anxiously, "Then when will it unfold?" The beast god shook his head. "Wait." Gu Mingming's face darkened. "How long do I have to wait? My heart aches seeing Qixuan in such a half-dead state." The beast deity chuckled. "My heart aches when I see my daughter so heartbroken." Gu Mingming looked up at the beast deity's benevolent smile. She felt a lump in her throat and could not say a word. So this was how it felt to be doted on by a father. After the age of 5, she had forgotten about it. The beast deity placed his large hand on Gu Mingming's head and gently caressed it. He then said, "You must learn to trust your own children. They are not as weak as you think. Just like you, there are many times when you do things that surprise me and make me proud." For example, Gu Mingming was a mother in front of Qixuan, but in front of the beast deity she truly felt like a daughter. The feeling of a 19-year-old daughter pestering her father for comfort was really good. The beast deity smiled gently, looking as though he was deep in thought. After a moment of silence he said, "For example, you often come back to watch television with me. When I went to the meeting last time I asked others. Their children didn't go home to watch TV with them." Chapter 10:11. "Alright, accompany me to watch the drama first, we can talk about the rest later." The beast deity pulled Gu Mingming to sit on the long bench and brushed away the white fog. Knowing that Qixuan had the soul of the forest to protect him and would eventually get better, Gu Mingming felt much better. Immortals wouldn't lie, would they? At least her father did not lie to her. With her mood relaxed, Gu Mingming stopped crying. She held onto the beast deity's arm and leaned her head on his shoulder, accompanying him to watch the drama. The lights in the villa were still dim, but even so, it could not hide Gu Mingming's distress. She instinctively wanted to snatch the love letter from Snake's hand, but how could Snake let her succeed? With just a light wave of his hand, he had the absolute advantage based on the difference in height. Gu Mingming could not snatch it by force, so she could only smile awkwardly and say, You still kept it? Your first love letter, of course I have to keep it. Snake's smile was light, but it carried a hint of settling scores after the fall. Gu Mingming mumbled softly, It's not for you. Snake acted as if he did not hear her, but his face darkened further. His slender fingers took out the letter from the envelope. One corner of the letter had been rubbed so hard by him that it looked like it was about to crack. His two fingers just happened to pinch on that crease. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to tell that the part below those two fingers had been ravaged by him. I like you like a sweet dream in the midst of warmth. I like you, like the rain falling on the tropics and the poles from thousands of miles away. I like you, like the smoke from the kitchen chimney, the snow and the rain falling from the pears. I like you, like the clouds chasing after the wind without asking where it came from. I like you, 10 miles of spring wind cannot compare to you. Snake read every word, his tone and sentences perfectly timed. His eyes were fixated on Gu Mingming's face, as if the letter in his hand was just a prop. This person had already memorized the contents of the letter, as if the letter in his hand was just evidence that Gu Mingming could not deny. Are you sure that someone like Zhang Jinqing, who has never scored double digits in Chinese, can understand this kind of sentence? Gu Mingming had already been forced into a corner by Snake and had nowhere to hide. When he leaned over, Gu Mingming pressed herself against the wall, looking as if she wanted to embed herself into the wall. She was a little timid and helpless, but this made the anger in Snake's chest gradually dissipate. In any case, Zhang Jinqing had never seen this love letter before. Apart from him, no one had seen it. And the person who wrote this love letter now belonged to him and only him. However, he couldn't let her pass so easily. Otherwise, he didn't know how bold she would be next time. Cupping his hands beside Gu Mingming's ears, Snake's face pressed closely against the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. His warm and ambiguous breath blew onto Gu Mingming's face. Snake said in a low voice, You don't even like him that much, so you never intended for him to understand or accept this love letter from the start. Gu Coward shrunk her neck and said softly, I didn't know that his Chinese wasn't good. Snake gritted his teeth. Who was the one who said she was a coward? In the 19 years of his rebirth, no one dared to go against his wishes when he was so angry. He had already given her a way out, but she still refused to come down. His teeth were itching, he really wanted to bite her to death and end it once and for all. But he knew that he couldn't bear to. Aside from the topic, everyone had been disgusted by Cole recently. Chapter 10-12. Now that you know, do you intend to write a new one that matches his reading level? Do you need me to guide you? Gu Mingming shook her head. I already have a boyfriend, why would I write a love letter to someone else? His anger dissipated in an instant. Even Snake himself found it unbelievable. So he was so easy to coax. Just one sentence from her could pull him into the clouds. All the things that she had done to make him unhappy could be written off. His large hand wrapped around Gu Mingming's waist and lifted her up, pressing her against his abdomen. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. It was a lingering and loving kiss, as if it was a small reward. But I still mind that your first love letter wasn't written to me. Your first words of love weren't meant for me. You racked your brains to choose the right words to write, but they didn't belong to me. Gu Mingming was a little breathless from Snake's kiss. Her body turned soft as she laid on Snake's chest. That was copied by me, Snake's eyes lit up and his mood improved. Gu Mingming was a little shy. She lowered her head and said, I saw a sentence on an app. I thought it was beautiful, so I copied it down as a love letter. I didn't think of it myself. Snake was happy again. His woman did not spend her time on others. Her love letter was so half-hearted. It was obvious that she really did not like Zhang Jinqing that much. Even so, I am still jealous. Snake hooked Gu Mingming's chin gently. So, tell me, how are you going to make it up to me? Jealous? He was the great CEO. He was high up in the clouds. He was a child favored by God. Mortals could only look up to him. How could he feel jealousy? Just because her first love letter was for someone else? I will also copy one for you? Gu Mingming asked tentatively. Snake raised his eyebrows. Copy. Gu Mingming shook her head. She immediately corrected herself. I will think of it myself, I will think of it myself. Snake planted another kiss on Gu Mingming's lips. Only then did he let her go. Seeing her running for her life upstairs and slamming the door, Snake could not help but smile. He heard the sound of her breathing heavily behind the door, trying to calm her racing heart. I look forward to it, my Tumeng. The next day was the weekend and Gu Mingming did not need to go to school. But as she was used to waking up early for work, she still woke up at 7 a.m. sharp. Just as she put on her clothes, she heard someone knocking on the door. Rubbing her eyes, she opened the door and saw Snake leaning against the door frame, smiling at her. Good morning. Gu Mingming was stunned for half a second before slamming the door shut. She quickly retreated into the washroom to wash her face and brush her teeth. Gu Mingming held onto her chest and took a deep breath before opening the door again. Snake was still standing there in the same position as before, as if he was frozen in time. Even his smile was the same loving one. Good morning, senior. It was her first time greeting her boyfriend and she felt an indescribable sweetness growing in her heart, spreading throughout her entire body. Snake held onto Gu Mingming's waist and pecked her on the lips. Let's go downstairs for breakfast. You made this? Gu Mingming looked at the exquisite Western-style breakfast on the table and was stunned. Chapter 1013. Snake scooped up a little potato avocado salad with a small spoon and brought it to Gu Mingming's mouth. He looked at her gently, waiting for her to open her mouth. Gu Mingming's face was extremely red. She had never been fed by anyone since she could remember. She could not take it when Snake was teasing her so early in the morning. I can do it myself. Gu Mingming said softly. He held onto her hand that was about to take the spoon and pulled it before wrapping it around his waist. She sat in front of the dining table while he stood leaning against it. The sunlight shone through the European-style wooden windows, casting a warm glow on Snake's back. His slender and very good-looking hand held a small spoon and stopped it by her lips. He smiled faintly and asked, If you can do everything yourself, then why do you still need a boyfriend like me? Gu Mingming's heart was about to jump out of her throat. Luckily she was sitting down, or else her legs would have given way and she would have fallen to the ground. Ah! Snake let out a soft sound indicating for her to open her mouth. Being stared at by him, Gu Mingming obediently opened her mouth, allowing him to place that small piece of potato avocado salad into her mouth. Then he looked at her with a gentle and expectant gaze and asked, Is it delicious? The tip of Gu Mingming's tongue was numb and she could not taste anything at all. Now that the blood in her body was boiling, who would know if the potato avocado salad was delicious? But even if she could not taste anything, Gu Mingming still nodded obediently. Not for any other reason but because his teasing this early in the morning had already made her feel that the whole world was filled with sweet pink bubbles. Was it important what she was eating? Was it important? Not at all. The smile on Snake's face widened. He leaned forward and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. His nimble tongue swept into Gu Mingming's mouth, sucking in the lingering aftertaste between her teeth. Getting up, Snake gently wiped away the saliva he left on Gu Mingming's lips and chuckled. Yeah, I'll remember it. I'll cook for you according to this taste in the future. Gu Mingming's face was so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. She pushed Snakel and said, What? I am your assistant, taking care of your 3 meals is my job. Let me cook for you in the future. Snake took 2 steps back and sat on the other seat beside Gu Mingming, creating a suitable distance between them. Of course he wanted to stick to her like this, but her heartbeat was so loud that he could hear it clearly from so far away. If he didn't move away, she would have a heart attack, right? He liked that she was shy because of him, but he was also afraid that she would explode on the spot. After drinking a sip of milk elegantly, Snake replied, Your superior is your boyfriend, so you can have unspoken rules in the workplace. I accept and will cooperate fully. Cough, 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 cough. Gu Mingming choked and almost coughed out her lungs. What unspoken rules? Too shameful. Snake chuckled and caressed her back. Eat slowly, I won't snatch your food. Gu Mingming waved her hands and shook her head. It's better to keep a clear line between public and private affairs. Dating Snake was already stressful enough. If she did not even work, she would really feel that she was being kept by someone. Chapter 1014. Gu Mingming laughed softly. Using such a domineering tone of a CEO to say such willful words, coupled with that devilish face, it was an inexplicable harmony. Seeing her laugh, Snake's mood became even better. This was the happiest morning he had in 19 years. He could say good morning to her, then accompany her for breakfast. Gu Mingming felt a little uncomfortable under Snake's stare, so she changed the topic. Senior, you're really good at cooking. Snake chuckled softly, then looked at Gu Mingming with one hand supporting his cheek. I can do other things even better, do you want to try? Damn it. Gu Mingming had never been in a relationship before, but she felt that she understood it instantly. Gu Mingming's face, which had finally calmed down, instantly turned red again. She immediately lowered her head and stared at the salad on her plate, not daring to look at Snake. Snake knew that she had misunderstood, but refused to admit that he had purposely said those ambiguous words to lead her. He just said in a very normal tone, if I were to list out the things I know, it would probably be as thick as a Xinhua dictionary. Cooking is just one of the simplest. As thick as a Xinhua dictionary. Gu Mingming really wanted to say that Snake was bragging, but when she looked up at him, she strangely felt that he was speaking the truth. God was indeed biased, he seemed to be so good to Snake that it was infuriating. Then is there nothing you don't know? Gu Mingming sighed sorrowfully. Snake thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, there is one thing I don't know. What is it? Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. She wanted to learn this thing that Snake didn't know so that at least she could win against him. Snake chuckled and pinched Gu Mingming's face. I won't leave you. Thump, thump. Gu Mingming's heart beat violently twice, then stopped for 3 beats. Lowering her head, she forcefully stuffed a mouthful of salad into her mouth. Don't talk when eating, don't talk when sleeping. Snake chuckled. He took in every interesting reaction on her face. Yes, these were the treasures that he had waited for her for 19 years. He couldn't waste even a single frame. Moreover, he decided not to tell her that the reason why he had learned so many things was so that he could do anything for her when she needed it. No matter how much he hated fire, he still insisted on standing next to the stove and learned all kinds of exquisite cooking methods from all over the world, just so that he could no longer take out roasted meat that was roasted black like charcoal and still had traces of blood on the inside for her to eat. He didn't want to see her get poisoned again after eating the food he gave her. He planned to pay for that mistake with every meal of his life. Tu Ming. Snake held Gu Mingming's hand and looked into her eyes. I will only borrow you once in this lifetime. This journey will be the rest of my life. Chapter 10:15. Snake had to accompany Gu Mingming in school from Monday to Friday, so he had to go to Monsieur Company to work on Saturday and Sunday. After all, there were many documents that required his signature before they could be stored in the warehouse, and many decisions had to be approved by him before they could be implemented. So after breakfast, Snake brought Gu Mingming into the changing room and asked her to pick a set of clothes for him to wear today. Suit after suit were neatly lined up on the clothes rack, from black to lighter colors, with the lightest being light gray. Yeah, there were white suits in the past, but ever since Gu Mingming teased him that he was the most handsome KFC in a white suit, Snake had thrown away all the white suits. To be honest, Gu Mingming only had one word for suits, and that was handsome. She would watch the red carpet of the various award ceremonies every year, but she could not tell the difference between the suits worn by the male celebrities other than the color of the suits. So Gu Mingming was actually a little flustered when Snake asked her to pick a suit. After all, they had spent too little time together, and she really did not understand Snake's preferences. What if she picked the wrong one? Gu Mingming sneaked a peek at Snake from the corner of her eye, and Snake seemed to have seen through her uneasiness. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, whispering into her ear, "Pick one that you think looks good, I will wear it for you to see. As long as you like it, I will like it." Gu Mingming's heart tightened and she shrank her neck. Then her fingers landed on a khaki 3-button suit for 4 years and she took it down. She then found an excuse to struggle out of Snake's arms, and placed the suit on his body to size it up. Snake knew that she was not used to being hugged by him, so he did not force her. He just looked at her calmly, allowing her to size it up. Gu Mingming put the khaki suit back and took a dark coffee-colored suit. She compared it and felt that this color looked better, so she secretly looked up at Snake's expression, trying to gauge his intentions. Snake looked at her with a smile and said indulgently, "Like it? I will wear it for you to see." With that, Snake started to unbutton his own shirt. Gu Mingming was shocked and shouted, "Don't move." Snake really stopped moving as if someone had pressed the pause button. He then stared fixedly at Gu Mingming. When she raised her head to look at him, the corners of her lips curved up and she said, "What? Tu Ming wants to help me take off my clothes?" Gu Mingming's face turned even redder. She shook her head like a rattle drum and said, No, I'll leave the clothes for you first. I'll go out first, you can slowly change." With that, Gu Mingming wanted to run. She had only taken one step when her wrist was grabbed by Snake. With a little force, she fell into Snake's arms. Chapter 10:16. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes, not knowing whether to advance or retreat. Sleep with him? It was not that she did not want to, but she did not dare to. Gu Mingming did not have the guts to do so. Not sleep with him? Did she really have to tear off his clothes and put them on herself? Snake inched his face closer to Gu Mingming's and said, "Kiss me and I'll consider it as you sleeping with me." If it was just a kiss, it was acceptable. After all, their first kiss could be done in public. So a kiss on the cheek when no one was around was acceptable to Gu Mingming. So she leaned forward and prepared to give Snake a peck on the cheek. But before he could touch her, Snake turned his head and their lips touched each other without any mistake. Snake's green eyes were full of smiles, with gentleness and a hint of craftiness after getting his way. Gu Mingming blushed and retracted her mouth as if she was electrocuted. She wanted to run, but Snake did not let her. He hugged her waist tightly and said, "This is the first time you took the initiative to kiss me. I enjoyed it very much." With that, he kissed Gu Mingming's cheek again and said, "Wait for me at the door. Don't go too far." Gu Mingming nodded. Only then did Snake let go of her and let her run out like the wind. Snake changed into the dark coffee-colored three-button suit that Gu Mingming had chosen for him and matched it with a pair of exquisite handmade leather shoes. He took out a striped tie of the same color from the necktie box and was about to tie it when he stopped. "Tu Ming, come in." Gu Mingming cupped her face with both her hands and separated her fingers slightly. A pair of big eyes peeked out from between her fingers and she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Snake was already dressed. She then walked in. Snake handed the tie to Gu Mingming and said, "Help me tie it." Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly and said, "But I don't know how to tie a tie." "Do whatever you want, it's fine even if it's a dead knot." Gu Mingming was a little confused. Although she was not knowledgeable, she could tell that the tie was not cheap. Moreover, Snake was going to work today. A dignified CEO wearing expensive clothes but a dead knot on his tie? This is not good. "I just want you to tie me up, however you want to tie me up." Gu Mingming burst out laughing. He was not a dog, what did he have to say about being tied up? However, Gu Mingming really did not know how to tie a tie, but she did not tie a knot for Snake. Instead, she tied the tie like how a red scarf was tied. Snake himself was very satisfied, but Gu Mingming was so embarrassed that she wanted to chop off her own claws. Snake drove Gu Mingming to Monsieur Company himself. Gu Mingming did not know if it was a psychological trick, but her gaze was fixated on Snake's necktie. The more she looked, the more guilty she felt, and the more inappropriate she felt. "Why don't you untie it and redo it yourself?" Chapter 10:17. "Aren't we going to the office?" Gu Mingming asked in confusion. Snake hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and kissed her forehead. "I'll bring you around the lobby first. Let the people in the company get to know the future lady boss." Gu Mingming blushed. The blush on her face did not fade for the entire day. Ding dong, the elevator doors opened. The receptionist opposite the elevator was clearly stunned. Firstly, she had never seen the CEO walk out of the elevator on the first floor. Secondly, the CEO had always been a loner and never allowed anyone to get close to him. But today he was hugging a woman. "Hello, CEO." The receptionist was quick to react and immediately stood up to greet Snake. Snake did not say a word. He just hugged Gu Mingming and walked around the lobby. Then he returned to the elevator doors and pressed all the buttons on the first floor. Then he retreated before the doors closed. When the elevator went up, he then pressed the up button from outside. His right hand was still wrapped around Gu Mingming's shoulder the entire time, not letting go for even a second. Gu Mingming felt extremely uncomfortable being stared at like X-rays. She asked softly, "What are you doing?" Snake smiled faintly. "Waiting for the elevator." Gu Mingming, an empty elevator exclusive to the CEO, stopped at every floor for a while before opening. Everyone in the company was shocked. After standing up to greet him, they realized that the elevator was empty. The CEO was not inside at all. Hence, they looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. When the elevator finally returned to the first floor, Snake brought Gu Mingming in. Then he pressed the button for the highest floor and went to the office. Gu Mingming's face was red and awkward the entire time. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Along the way, everyone with eyes kept staring at her as if she was naked. After entering Snake's office, Gu Mingming collapsed on the sofa armrest. She was speechless at Snake's cheerful mood. Was it because rich people's brain circuits were different from normal people's? Didn't novels always say that CEOs would be secretive when dating poor girls for fear of being discovered? Why was he so ostentatious? Wasn't he afraid that his mother would throw a check in her face and force her to leave him? Sensing Gu Mingming's gaze, Snake, who had just sat on the office chair and approved a document, looked up at her and said, You are looking at me like this, are you hinting to me that you want something to happen here? Damn it, another instant understanding. Gu Mingming deeply felt that she was not pure. Turning his head away he said, "Why did you play with the elevator like that?" Snake looked at Gu Mingming in surprise. "I'm flaunting my love. It's so obvious, can't you tell?" Cough cough cough. Gu Mingming looked at Snake speechlessly and said, "So why are you showing off your love?" Snake touched his nose and smiled sweetly. His voice was filled with joy. "I just can't wait to let everyone know that you are the person I like and we are together." Looking at Snake's gentle expression and hearing his every word that seemed to resonate with his heartbeat, the uneasiness and awkwardness in Gu Mingming's heart gradually melted. She did not know when Snake fell in love with her, but these few days of interaction made her certain of one thing. Snake really loved her very much and loved her terribly. Aside from the topic, cold dog food was randomly slapped on her face. Chapter 10:18. The white fog gradually gathered and the scene disappeared behind it. Gu Mingming felt like she had just watched a sweet movie and her mood became much better. She stretched lazily and stood up from the chair. Turning back, she met the beast deity's smiling gaze. "Father, this place is much bigger than the last time I was here," Gu Mingming said. The beast deity nodded. "Yes, you brought more hope to the beast world so you obtained more power." But she did not do anything. Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity in confusion. After a long silence, she suddenly understood something. The first time the Grassy appeared was not because she merged the mermaid tribe and giant fish tribe, nor because she dug the well. It was because she obtained the kiss of the ocean. So the reason why the area became bigger this time was because of the soul of the forest? As if he could read Gu Mingming's mind, the beast deity rubbed her head. "When you gather the 7 treasures, the white fog will dissipate. Looking at it now, it should be a beautiful grassland. Full of hope." Gu Mingming's mind buzzed. She remembered that the beast deity had once told her that when the white fog dissipated, the doors of time and space would open. Instinctively taking a step back, Gu Mingming gazed at the beast deity. "I can choose not to return, right?" The beast deity nodded. "No one can force you. The choice is in your hands." It was the same answer as the previous time. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. Taking 2 deep breaths, Gu Mingming adjusted her emotions. "I came here this time because I have a few questions." "Ask away." The beast deity looked like a good father who would tell her everything. Gu Mingming said, "Do you know a female called Melinda whom I saved when I was retrieving the kiss of the ocean?" The beast deity chuckled. I watched True Records of Love in the Battlefield." Gu Mingming chuckled. True Records of Love in the Battlefield was a joke she had made when she helped Melinda and Carter clear the stray beasts on the way back. But since the beast deity already knew, Gu Mingming did not say anything else. So she asked directly, "There is just something I don't understand. Why did Dora want Melinda dead? She likes Fei Rui, but Fei Rui and Melinda are siblings." The beast deity rubbed Gu Mingming's head. "Because of jealousy." "Jealous?" Gu Mingming could not understand. The beast god nodded and continued, "Fei Rui and Dora grew up together. Dora has always liked Fei Rui, but ever since Melinda was born, Fei Rui's attention has been completely focused on his precious sister. He has become colder and colder towards Dora. Dora kept trying to get on Fei Rui's good side. She used all kinds of methods to get Fei Rui's attention, but she could not get Fei Rui's attention back from Melinda. Hence she decided to kill Fei Rui. She thinks that as long as Melinda dies, Fei Rui's attention will return to her." Gu Mingming held her forehead. Chapter 10:19. The beast deity held onto Gu Mingming's stray hair and looked at her neck. He chuckled. "Yeah, it has changed." Gu Mingming was taken aback. She frowned. "But Snake looked fine just now," the beast deity nodded. "The guardian mark is different from the mating mark. The guardian mark will change according to the power you have inherited." Gu Mingming stared blankly at the beast deity. Forgive her for not understanding what he was saying. The beast deity thought for a moment. "Do you still remember the poisonous fog you sucked in with the kiss of the ocean?" Gu Mingming nodded. The beast deity chuckled. "That was the venom of a snake." Without waiting for Gu Mingming to ask, he continued. "Do you still remember the blood you sucked into your palm to retrieve the soul of the forest?" Gu Mingming nodded again. The beast deity continued. "That was the blood of a snake." Gu Mingming frowned. She did not understand. The beast deity continued. "Then do you know who that snake is?" Gu Mingming shook her head. The beast deity said, "Whales?" The beast deity only said one name, but it made Gu Mingming shudder. Whales. Snake's biological father. The one whose heart was dug out by Wang Xiaoxin. The beast deity nodded. He agreed with Gu Mingming's guess. Then he continued, what snake left you is his personal protection mark and also a key. You absorbed whale's blood and venom. That is equivalent to activating this key and opening the door to the guardian mark. You should have realized it yourself. You are much stronger than before. In the past, the snake species submitted to you because they feared your beast king powers. Or they wanted to use your identity as the messenger of the beast deity to gain protection. Or they were like Wabiai who saw you in a different light because of snake. But now, the beast deity paused for a moment before continuing, now your protection mark has changed from snake's personal mark to the snake clan's protection mark. In other words, no snake species can go against your orders. You are the absolute ruler and cannot be disobeyed. Gu Mingming frowned. She recalled Wabiai's strange behavior the day they returned with the soul of the forest. That day she clearly didn't release her aura. All she said was stop, and Wabiai collapsed to the ground like boiled noodles, unable to get up. Cole also said that if she did not let him up, he would definitely not be able to get up. So, it wasn't because of the Beast King's strength, but because of the change in the Guardian mark? Do you still remember Ellie's death? The Beast Deity continued, back then she had forcefully disobeyed Snake's orders, that was why her scales fell off piece by piece and her skin was peeled off while she was still alive. It was obvious how furious Snake was then. And now you have the same ability. Gu Mingming frowned, feeling a little uncomfortable. She clearly remembered the beast deity saying that after Whales died, Wang Xiaoxin realized that she had fallen in love with him, so she gave up the chance to return to the modern world and wanted to stay in the beast world. But, then why did Whale's blood and venom appear in the deep sea in Zacharias? The beast deity kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. Alright, you will understand some things in the future. Hurry back or else Elvis and Leah will be very worried about you. Chapter 1020. The beast deity smiled without saying a word. Gu Mingming then understood that the answer was still, I can't say. The answer was the same every time. Gu Mingming could not even feel the slightest sense of disappointment. Before she left, she hugged the beast deity and said, only when you raise a child will you realize the kindness of your parents. When I was being willful, I must have caused you a lot of trouble. The beast deity stroked Gu Mingming's back lovingly and kindly. No, you make me feel very proud most of the time. Moreover, you even watch television with me. Gu Mingming chuckled. You are probably the most indecent deity I have ever seen or heard of. The beast deity did not comment and just watched as Gu Mingming fell. When Gu Mingming woke up from her weightless state, she opened her eyes and saw a pair of blue eyes. It was as if every time Gu Mingming went to see the beast deity, Elvis would stare at her without rest. Because every time she opened her eyes, she would meet his gentle and concerned gaze. Gu Mingming was not in a hurry to get up. Instead, she flipped over and hugged Elvis's waist. Her tiny body burrowed into Elvis's arms. She called out hoarsely, hubby. I am here. Elvis stroked Gu Mingming's hair gently and kissed her brow. Gu Mingming asked, when I went to find the beast deity, did you not sleep at all? Elvis smiled and replied, why didn't you sleep? I was afraid. Elvis took a deep breath. His deep and husky voice was filled with a tinge of exhaustion and a lot of affection. I was afraid that the beast deity would suddenly take you away, just like how he brought you here without any warning. Elvis rubbed his chin against the top of Gu Mingming's head, greedily inhaling the scent that belonged to her. He could feel her breath on his chest. It was itchy but very comfortable. So, I can only stare at you without blinking. Only then can I be at ease. Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis and asked, so you did not eat or sleep these few days? Elvis nodded. It's normal for males to not eat or sleep for 3 to 4 days. It's fine. Gu Mingming pretended to glare at Elvis angrily and he immediately said tactfully, Leah guessed that you would wake up today so he prepared a lot of food. I will accompany you to eat later. Eat more, alright? Gu Mingming nodded and smiled without saying a word. She just continued to stay in Elvis's arms and buried her face in his chest, not wanting him to see her expression. She forbade them to keep anything from her. She forbade them to lie to her in the name of doing it for your own good. However, she managed to hide the fact that the white fog in her dream was gradually dissipating. She did not know when the door of time and space would open, and she would have to choose between staying or leaving. It wasn't that they didn't want to talk about it, but they were already so uneasy. Chapter 1021. Wabiai had been seriously injured by Gu Mingming and had not appeared for the past few days. Xian was still the same, sitting quietly by the door every day. In the few days that Gu Mingming was unconscious, he would purposely walk over to her bedside to look at her every time he woke up or went to sleep. However, he did not say a word and would just go back to do what he was supposed to do after looking at her. Although it was just a glance, Gu Mingming still felt very warm. Leah said. Xian still didn't like to talk to people, but Kamwa's chatterbox lingered around Xian every day without getting tired of it. Although Xian looked expressionless, he would still reply once in a while. Hada was the eldest of the 4 brothers, but he was the one who spoke the least. Whenever he said something, Xian would do as he was told even though he did not reply. On the contrary, it was Jianghu who was so smart that he could not do anything to Xian. Especially when Kamwa bragged about how many words Xian had said to him and how many words Xian had said to Jianghu. Such a comparison caused Jianghu's confidence to take a heavy blow. He felt that his genius brain had actually lost to a shameless fool. However, even though they were fooling around, the relationship between the 4 brothers was still very good. To Gu Mingming, that was the second piece of good news. In the evening, the sky was suffused with red clouds. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and watched as her 4 sons sat in a circle not far away. Of course, it was the other 3 who accommodated to Xuanhuan's seat and sat beside him to harass him daily. But Xian didn't express any rejection or annoyance. He just sat quietly and allowed them to make a ruckus around him. Leah swung his furry big tail and bent his knees to sit beside Gu Mingming. Zacharias tribe, do you have any plans? Gu Mingming was taken aback and felt a little frustrated. She had promised Leonard to bring the Zacharias tribe into Saint Nazir and become a sub-tribe like Sauter. But after so many things happened, Gu Mingming could barely take care of herself and forgot to make arrangements for this tribe. Leah could not bear to let Gu Mingming worry about such matters, so he said slowly, that which Dr. Nick in the tribe is quite capable. After Leonard's death, he managed all the matters in the tribe in an orderly manner. However, it's only a level 2 beast after all. Problems will definitely arise after a long time. Do you have a suitable candidate? Gu Mingming asked. Leah nodded and said, Burke. Gu Mingming raised her brows, a little surprised by Lee's suggestion. Leah said, after a winter's worth of corrections, those who were too weak in his tribe have already been eliminated. Although the remaining ones were not that strong, it should not be a problem for them to migrate from Sauter to Zacharias. Although that fellow overestimates himself, he is a responsible male and has experience as a leader. Most importantly, Burke would never betray Gu Mingming. The males in the beast world were all stubborn. Once they fell in love with a female, they would stay for life. Even if he didn't get a response, he would just hang on to the tree. So what happened to Oakley would not happen to Burke. But Leah did not mention this point. He would not express his feelings for other males in front of Gu Mingming. He was not a fool. Chapter 1022. Lee's gaze landed on the 4 little ones not far away. He was a little hesitant, but he still said, So, I want Kanwu to come with Burke. Kanwu is your son and has an esteemed status. If he calls Burke master, it will be equivalent to elevating Burke's status. No one would dare to say anything. Moreover, Zacharias borders the stray beast camp, and the leader here is Peter. Peter's weakness is Natalie, and Natalie will never allow Peter to harm Elvis's children. Furthermore, if anything happens to Zacharias, Peter will have to send people to help protect it. This is equivalent to turning one of our greatest enemies into our greatest allies. Gu Mingming knew that her sons were all adults and would eventually have to go out and establish their own families. But she never expected this day to come so quickly. Her sons were not even 2 years old yet. She had just snatched back Xian and now she had to send away Kanwu? If you can't bear to, we can think of other ways. Leah had already given her the most comprehensive plan, but he couldn't bear to let Gu Mingming feel heartache. Just as Elvis had said, as long as Gu Mingming was happy, raising a litter of useless wolf cubs was nothing. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, Kanwu has already grown up. He knows what he is doing. You can discuss this matter with him. As long as he is willing, I have no objections. Although I am his mother, I can't tie him to my belt forever. Gu Mingming said it casually, but she was actually feeling terrible inside. It was an indescribable contradiction. On one hand, she was glad that her sons had grown up, but on the other hand, she couldn't bear to let her sons leave her. Leah gently hugged Gu Mingming and said, Don't worry too much. This place is not too far from Saint Nazir. We can visit him often in the future or wait for Burke to establish himself here and then let Kanwu come back. Gu Mingming nodded and didn't say a word. When Gu Mingming told Kanwu about this, he agreed without a second thought. He had the willful and flamboyant air of a young man, as if he could finally fulfill his ambitions. Gu Mingming chuckled and shook her head in exasperation. This was truly a case of a mother worrying when her son travels 1,000 miles, but a mother worrying when her son travels 1,000 miles. This little heartless fellow did not seem to miss Gu Mingming at all. Gu Mingming could not bear to reprimand him, so she just smiled and watched as Kanwu eagerly planned out a future full of loopholes. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Qixin, who had been silent all along, suddenly stood up and walked to Gu Mingming's side. "Mum, can I stay behind with Wu?" "You?" Gu Mingming was surprised. Qixin nodded and turned back to look at Kanwu with a slight frown. Then he turned back to look at Gu Mingming. "I'm afraid he will be at a disadvantage." Gu Mingming, Leah, Elvis and even Jianghu understood that Qixin was saying Kanwu was too stupid. Only Kanwu did not seem to notice and even hooked his arm around Qixuan's neck. He was extremely excited and said affectionately, "Second brother treats me the best. With a second-level beast like you by my side I feel more at ease. Even if you want to beat a tiger you need your own brothers, right?" Qixin sighed and looked at Gu Mingming without saying a word. But his eyes were filled with the expression, "Look at how stupid he is. If you don't look after him, something bad will definitely happen." Seeing Gu Mingming's hesitation, Kanwu directly pounced into her arms and begged, "Mum, you also know that I admire my second brother the most. Now that he is willing to take care of me, I am extremely happy. Please don't break us up." Chapter 1023. The next day, Kanwu and Qixin set off for Zacharias. Leah personally sent them over. Gu Mingming suddenly felt a little empty without the two sons that she worried about the most. Sitting at the spot where Qixin was daydreaming every day, Gu Mingming stared at the scenery. She thought that maybe she should learn to let go. As long as Qixin was not by Cole's side, she could actually let him be independent. She was not a crazy mother who wanted to tie her children to her side. She just could not allow her sons to fall into a deep abyss and not save them. That was good too. With Qixin and Kanwu at Zacharias, maybe she could free up her hands to deal with Cole. Just as she was thinking, Peter suddenly paid a visit. Gu Mingming was surprised because Peter's attitude towards Natalie's litter was extremely good. Compared to Elvis's litter, it was like the difference between clouds and mud. Ever since Natalie gave birth, he could not bear to leave Natalie's side. If not for the fact that he could not reject Natalie's request to retrieve the soul of the forest, he would not have accompanied her at all. Today, he left Natalie behind to come see her? Gu Mingming stood up. He was Elvis's father after all. Gu Mingming still subconsciously treated him as an elder. Peter's expression did not look right. It was rather solemn. It was clearly a sunny day, but his features were hidden in the shadows. Elvis instinctively shielded Gu Mingming behind him. He looked at Peter with a guarded gaze. Peter did not continue approaching. He just stood a meter away. His fists were tightly clenched. Blood dripped from his palms, but he did not seem to notice. The atmosphere became rather stifling. Gu Mingming did not know what to say. She could only look at Peter quietly and wait for him to speak. After a long while, Peter finally spoke. "You said that you can bring Natalie to St. Nazir and protect her. Does that still count?" Gu Mingming was taken aback. Peter did not look like he wanted to leave with Natalie. Instead, he looked like he wanted to send Natalie off alone. Frowning, Gu Mingming asked, "Did something happen?" Peter looked up, his wolfish eyes bloodshot. His malevolent expression contorted his features and his entire face was trembling, showing the limits of his endurance. He was trying to control himself, sparing no effort. "Take her away, protect her. Tell her that she's free now." The veins on Peter's arms throbbed as he glared at Natalie with bloodshot eyes. It was a desperate plea, a humbleness that had been forged from his own flesh and blood. In this lifetime he would only submit to Natalie, be it in the past or now. If it's possible, please save at least 1 or 2 of the 6 pups. They're Natalie's only hope. If you can't. He clenched his fists even tighter, but even if he tensed up all the nerves in his body, he still couldn't say the last sentence. If that didn't work, he would give up on the pups and save Natalie. He couldn't bring himself to say it. Because this litter of wolf pups was different from Elvis's. Natalie was willing to help him give birth to this litter of wolf pups because she loved him. Every one of them was proof that she loved him. Chapter 1024. You? Gu Mingming expressed her surprise. "Yes, me?" Peter exclaimed. "I know that with your powers you can completely crush Cole. But since you are unwilling to dirty your hands, let me do it for you. As long as you can protect my female and son, I will be the sharpest sword in your hands." Gu Mingming seemed to understand something. She gently patted Elvis's arm, indicating that he didn't have to be too nervous. She took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Elvis, facing Peter. "Does Natalie herself know that you want me to bring her away? Has she agreed?" Peter's expression clearly changed, not because of anything else, but because Gu Mingming had mentioned that name. Some people were just like that. Just the mention of her name was like clutching your throat, making you forget to even breathe. After a long while, the corners of Peter's lips curled up. He wanted to smile, but the muscles on his face were too stiff, twisting the smile into a sinister one. "I will make her agree." With that, he turned to leave without waiting for Gu Mingming's reply. Gu Mingming felt very conflicted as she watched Peter's back. She reached out for a hug from Elvis before following him to Natalie's cave. Peter stood at the entrance of the cave for a long time. It was as if the entrance was filled with thorns, and every step he took would pierce an inch into his flesh. It was foreseeable that he would be badly mutilated. He clenched and unclenched his fists. After countless deep breaths, Peter's facial muscles were forcefully relaxed. He strode in with a cold and sinister expression. Just by looking at his back, Gu Mingming could clearly feel the pain he was in. "You want to go in?" Elvis asked. Gu Mingming nodded, but the corners of her lips curved up slightly. Elvis was different from Gu Mingming. He didn't care about anyone other than Gu Mingming. What did death and sorrow have to do with him? But Elvis understood Gu Mingming. She had always been soft-hearted and easily affected by others. But Peter's sorrow today had caused a faint smile to appear in Gu Mingming's eyes. This was not normal. Forget it, as long as she wanted to do something, he would let her do as she pleased. Stepping into the cave, they saw Peter sitting boldly on one side of the bed, his head raised and chin looking at Natalie. "I have decided to let you off. Congratulations, you are free now, Scram. Take your son and get out of my sight. Don't ever appear in front of me again." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Natalie stood rooted to the ground. After all, even when their relationship was at its worst, Peter had never spoken to her like this. "You don't understand?" Peter laughed coldly. "Back then you abandoned me and turned me into a stray beast. That's why I took revenge on you and imprisoned you. I was waiting for you to fall in love with me, and then I would ruthlessly trample on you. Now that I've achieved my goal, I won't waste any more time on you. So you can scram now." Natalie's face paled and she glared at Peter. "That's enough. I'm going to get angry if you continue." Chapter 1025. Natalie took 2 deep breaths and calmed down. She said with a mild expression, "I have never heard of a female being able to walk back safely from the hands of stray beasts. Since you've already taken your revenge and you're tired of me, then just kill me. I won't be able to survive if I leave this place anyway. An old female like me will no longer have any males willing to mate with me and take care of me and my children. I might as well die in your hands." With that, Natalie lifted her chin, revealing the clear veins on her neck. She then picked up Peter's hand and held it against her own neck. "Here, with your skills, it should be broken with just a light pinch." Peter's expression twitched uncontrollably. He quickly retracted his hand and shot a cold and sharp gaze at Natalie. It was like a wolf eyeing its prey in the night, full of danger. "You are not worthy of dirtying my hands. Moreover, I want to watch you slowly being tortured to death. Breaking your neck? If I let you die too quickly, I will not be happy." Natalie patted the dirt off her body and stood up from the bed. Then she sent the 6 little ones into Gu Mingming's arms and said with a smile, "Daughter-in-law, help me take care of Elvis's brothers. I have to teach his father a lesson first. Perhaps he has forgotten who is the head of the family after being so friendly for so long." Gu Mingming nodded and shot Elvis a look. Then the 2 of them left the cave and sat at the entrance to eavesdrop. Peter, who had been full of vigor, suddenly became a little timid. He did not know why. He had been so confident when Gu Mingming and Elvis were around. But now that the 2 of them had left, he did not even dare to look at Natalie in the eye. The ferocious look on his face was still there. He tried his best to play the role of a cold person. But the beads of sweat on his forehead and his throbbing temples betrayed his unease. Natalie stood in front of Peter. As he was sitting, she could barely look at him at eye level. She said, "Because you don't have the mating mark, so you don't have to worry about being abandoned, so you can do whatever you want, right?" Peter frowned. He knew that he should roar back fiercely or use sharp words to mock her. But it was as if his mouth had been sewn shut and he couldn't say a single word. His heart was beating extremely fast and he had a feeling of unease and anticipation. Natalie placed her hands on her waist and lifted her chin to look at Peter. I am after all a female who has been tied up in the stray beast camp by you for 17 years. Do you think I am still the same little female who would be scared to tears by your ferocious look in the past? Stretching out a hand, he poked Peter's forehead hard, causing his head to tilt backwards. Young and pretty female, right? Tell me with which eye did you see it? I'll help you dig out your eyeballs and wash them so that you won't be able to see clearly. Peter's heart was pounding. Natalie's jealous, isn't she? She had never treated him so strongly before. She had always been weak and timid. Now she dared to be so impudent, because she finally believed that he couldn't bear to hurt her, right? What he had hoped for half his life had finally come true. But now he had no choice but to push her away. Gritting his teeth, he brushed Natalie's hand away and gave her a shove. Chapter 1026. Natalie didn't seem to expect Peter to push her. After a moment of shock, she stood up and said, "You've got guts. You dare to hit me? All right. Even if you hurt me, I won't let you have it easy." Peter looked at Natalie in confusion. He had a bad feeling about this. Natalie turned her back to Peter and said, "You pushed me. I will kill your beloved female." With that, she used all her strength to dash towards the wall, looking as if she was going to smash her head against the wall and die. Peter broke out in cold sweat. He didn't even know that he could move so fast. He was already in front of Natalie when she had just taken her first step. Ugh! He groaned as he felt an intense pain in his chest. It wasn't that Natalie's collision was painful, but he knew that Natalie didn't hold back at all. She was really determined to smash herself to death. If he hadn't stopped her in time, Natalie wouldn't have survived the collision. "Are you crazy?" Peter roared as he held onto Natalie's shoulder. Natalie looked up. There was a red mark on her forehead. She looked at Peter with tears in her eyes and said, "Didn't you not want me anymore? Didn't you get sick of me and feel disgusted at the sight of me? Go and find your young and beautiful female. Why do you still care about me?" Sob, sob, sob. He wanted to shake Natalie off and say, "If you want to die, stay away from me. Don't dirty my place." But looking at her sobbing face, his chest felt like it was being torn apart. He couldn't say the harsh words that he could have said in the past. Humans are fearless when they have nothing. She said that because he didn't have a mating mark, he wasn't afraid of being abandoned. But that wasn't the case. He was even more afraid of being abandoned by her now than when he had the mark on her body. Compared to her love, the mating mark was not even worth mentioning. Peter's pretense crumbled in the face of Natalie's tears. His large hand caressed her back. He sighed and said, "I have really spoiled you. You even dare to hurt my beloved female? You know that I can't do anything to you, right?" Natalie looked like she was going to cry herself to death in Peter's arms. She sobbed and asked, "Are you still going to abandon me? Are you still sick of me? You even hurt yourself. Isn't it because you know that I can't let you go? You still ask such a question?" Peter frowned helplessly, but his tone was extremely gentle. But Natalie didn't buy his gentleness. She continued to cry and asked, "You never liked me, right? From the start, you treated me this because I rejected you and hurt your pride, right? Sob, sob, you really don't like me?" Peter had no choice but to hold the back of her head and said seriously, "I like you and care about you. You are the only person in the world that I can't live without. You clearly know and you clearly believe, yet you still say such twisted words to poke at my heart." Natalie's eyes were filled with tears as she asked timidly, "But you said you were going to abandon me." Peter's heart ached along with Natalie's sobs. The ferocious look on his face had long disappeared. Facing Natalie, he had no other choice but to pamper her. So he surrendered. "I will never abandon you, never." Natalie nodded, and then raised her hand to wipe away her tears. She revealed a sly smile and said, "You're not going to abandon me? Then let's talk." Out of topic. All females in the world are drama queens. Appraisal complete. Report on our results last month. The final ranking of Wolf Man in March was 80th. In the 2 months since it was released, we both entered the top 100. This made Susu feel very proud. Thank you babies for your support and love. April is Susu's birthday. I hope we can still make it into the top 100 this month. In addition, the explosive update time is set for the 23rd. At midnight there will be a lot of updates in one go. My babies, please look forward to it. Chapter 1027. Peter was stunned for a moment and could not react. Natalie's expression had changed too quickly. She was still so devastated just now, but now, Peter suddenly laughed and shook his head. He hugged Natalie even tighter and said, "You, after spending so much time with the stray beasts, you have actually become so sly. But this is also good. Compared to you being really upset. I would rather you were just fooling me." Natalie pushed Peter away and sat back on the bed. "You won't be able to get away with this level of sweet talk. Tell me, why did you suddenly ask me to leave?" Peter walked up to Natalie and knelt on one knee. He placed one hand on Natalie's knee and the other around her waist. With a deep gaze he said, "Recently I've been losing control of myself more and more." Natalie was stunned for a moment. "Are you referring to the time you woke up and ran out in the middle of the night?" Peter's body stiffened. He thought she did not know. After hesitating for a moment, Peter still nodded and said, "My body craves to kill. I cannot control it with my consciousness. At first I was satisfied just by killing some wild beast. But now I have to torture and kill orcs to calm myself down. I do not even know what I am doing when I am in a state of madness. If this goes on, I am afraid that one day I will hurt you when I am unconscious." Natalie chuckled and nodded. "So you intend to send me to Elvis's side and let the messenger of the beast deity protect me?" Peter nodded his head in agreement. But Natalie smiled and continued to ask, "Then what if one day you lose control and rush to Saint Nazir to hurt me? What do you hope the messenger will do?" "Kill me," Peter stammered. In the entire beast world, only she has this ability. Natalie sighed as if extremely disappointed. She leaned back and widened the distance between them. "It seems like you do not love me that much, and do not believe that I love you." Peter's muscles tensed up instantly. He tightened his grip on Natalie's waist and pressed his lips into a straight line. He did not say a word. Natalie said, "If you had not stopped me just now, I would have knocked myself to death. Do you know that?" Peter became even more uneasy upon hearing this. Natalie continued, "Don't you understand? The current me. I can't live without you." Peter's eyes widened at Natalie's words and he was completely stunned. Natalie leaned forward and cupped Peter's face in her hands. "We've been going around and torturing each other for 17 years. Can't we have a good life ahead of us? Peter, I could not live without you. So, for my sake, can you try resisting that bloodlust? You love me so much. Can't you do anything for me? I can't live without you, so I will definitely try to overcome it. But I can't risk you, so you can leave with Elvis and the rest first. I'll come and fetch you when I can control this desire, all right?" Natalie smiled and shook her head. "I'm your greatest courage, aren't I? If I leave, how will you have the strength to resist the desires other than longing?" Chapter 1028. Peter chuckled and shook his head. "You have really been spoiled by me to the point of being out of control." Natalie wasn't angry. She just smiled. "Hand the children over to their elder brother and sister-in-law for a while. I will focus on accompanying you." Peter nodded and buried his face in Natalie's thigh. A warm feeling spread from the left side of his chest to the rest of his body. Looking back now, he finally understood that the coldness in the past was called loneliness. Although Elvis was unwilling, he couldn't resist Gu Mingming's pleading gaze and reluctantly brought the entire nest of cubs back. He gritted his teeth. Those 4 huge troublemakers had just reached adulthood. 2 of them had yet to be chased away, and now there were 6 more. Just the thought of it gave him a headache. Elvis decided that after Peter's matter was settled, he would definitely fling those 6 meat buns in his face and have a proper duel with him. But luckily, Gu Mingming didn't personally carry those 6 milk buns. Instead, she threw them to Hutta and Jianghu. Hutta had always been steady and had the experience of taking care of his 3 younger brothers. So it wasn't difficult for him to take care of the 6 little uncles. More importantly, they could communicate in beast language, which was even better than Gu Mingming's. The cave that the 4 brothers had snatched back was not far away. So even though Hutta had taken the 6 little ones away, Elvis would definitely be able to rush over to help as long as Hutta or Jianghu howled at the top of their lungs if there were any problems. This was an era where communication was based on howling and transportation was based on walking. Leah had yet to return from sending Xianxia and Xuanhuan off, while Hutta and Jianghu were in another cave with the 6 milk buns. Gu Mingming's side was rather peaceful. She was already used to sitting where Xianxia had sat in a daze. Elvis had become her personal sofa, using his chest to accommodate her. If Wabi wasn't in the way, Elvis would feel even more perfect. There will be a heavy downpour these few days. Wabi sat at the side with a melancholic gaze. This rain may last for a few days. But after it stops, it will be the dry season. By then I will have to return to the Snake King Valley. Gu Mingming knew that Wabi couldn't bear to part with her. Gu Mingming kicked Wabiai. She didn't use much strength, only causing him to stagger but not fall. Wabiai turned back to glare at Gu Mingming in displeasure, but she grinned widely. What are you looking at? You couldn't beat me in the past, let alone now. Wabiai rolled his eyes at Gu Mingming. We came out for nothing during this rainy season. We didn't even get into a fight. Gu Mingming asked, do you have violent tendencies? Hey, I know a little psychology now. Do you want me to treat you? Scram. Wabiai growled rudely before looking askance at Gu Mingming. Before the monsoon season ends, how about I help you get rid of that cripple? That cripple, Cole. Gu Mingming's lips curled upwards. How should I deal with it? Did you kill him? Should I keep them for the new year? Wabiai asked instead of answering. Chapter 1029. For a moment Wabiai was even a little dazed. It was as if the petite figure in front of him had overlapped with someone he was once familiar with. That person clearly didn't say the same thing, but he seemed to see his shadow. The corners of Wabiai's lips curled up and he suddenly laughed. In that case I don't have to be a busybody. However, when I come to find you after the dry season, you must find something fun for me to do. Gu Mingming nodded in agreement. That night, as expected, it rained heavily. Leah returned drenched while Wabiai left without saying goodbye. Quickly transform and get rid of the water on your body. Don't catch a cold. Gu Mingming looked at Leah, who had returned in his half-beast form, and felt helpless. He could have returned in his beast form and transformed at the entrance of the cave, but he had to make himself look so miserable. Leah shook his head and the water on the beast's ear flowed down his face. Sitting beside the fire, he twisted his big tail and looked up at Gu Mingming pitifully. I want to slowly roast myself dry so that Mingming will feel sorry for me. Gu Mingming smiled as she took a piece of beast skin and gently wiped Lee's hair. Occasionally she would wipe his two furry beast ears and pinch them playfully. Leah sat there lazily, allowing Gu Mingming to fiddle with him. Then he cupped his chin and told her about the situation in Zacharias. Once Xuanhu arrived at Xuanhu, he displayed the qualities of a little tyrant, arrogant and despotic, seemingly rude and unreasonable, but everything he did was just right. It made people fear him, but they couldn't find any reason for it. The reason for this was very obvious. He was relying on the fact that he was the son of the messenger of the beast deity and no one dared to provoke him. He had to shoulder all the dissatisfaction the Zacharias people had towards the paratroopers. Then, when Borg came, he would restrain himself and Borg would win the hearts of many people for nothing. Then, if someone came to pick a fight with him, Xuanhu could use force to suppress them. Because he was like this from the beginning, people would not blame him. They would only say, you know he has a bad temper, why did you provoke him? Then Borg would come out and bring Xuanhu back to educate him. After a few rounds like this, Borg's prestige was naturally established. This idea was not given to him by Leah. It was clearly Qixuan's doing. It had to be said that Qixian had learned some things from Cole. With him by Xuanhu's side to help, Xuanhu could avoid a lot of dirty tricks and also let Xuanhu suffer a lot less. It had to be said that the combination of Xuanhu and Qixian was somewhat similar to Elvis and Leah. With that thought, Leah looked up at Gu Mingming. Mingming, do you think Xuanhu and Qixian will mate with the same female like me and Elvis? If the two brothers work together, the other rivals in love definitely won't be able to live. The smile on Gu Mingming's face froze. How should I put it? Things like a Huang and Nuing would be a beautiful story if it happened to others, but Gu Mingming felt a little awkward when it happened to her own son. But Leah was right. If Qixian and Xuanhu could mate with the same female, it would be the most advantageous situation for them. After all, if the two of them were separated, Xuanhu would easily be set up by others, while Qixuan's cold demeanor would make it difficult for the females here to like him. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.